I'm doing right now. And right now, who I am and where I come from. So I started my undergraduate studies in 2009 at the University of um, Pretoria. Uh, I wasn't successful in my first year in accounting, but managed to pass everything else, and had to repeat that in the second year. And come 2012, after a while at UP, I decided that I'd be better off at the University of Pretoria. You know, I think a bit of a quiet life, which has helped me focus in a bit more on my studies. Um, and so while at UKZN in Pietermaritzburg in 2012, I started my second year then again, um, and had to do a bridging year. And while I was there, I passed my bridging year and then went into second year and I passed everything except for accounting again. And um, come third year, now at University of KwaZulu-Natal, I went through all of this again. And I studied my ass off. Oh, sorry, I studied my heart off, and probably not understanding what I was doing quite well. I feel like that was one of my gaps in undergrad, is that I never really felt I was understanding what was going on. And um, in my third year, I finally passed accounting while at UKZN. And then come 2015, 16, and 17, I remember my biggest challenge back then was with auditing, in that in 2015, auditing was a single module. And I wrote this thing and I passed my first semester, and second semester just let me down, but I was sure that I was going to make it through the exam, and it just didn't happen. And yeah, finally they decided in the next year to split it up into two modules, and I managed to pass my first module, but then I failed the second one, and I came back in 2017 for it, and that's when I finally passed my undergrad. Um, then come 2018, I thought, let me come over to, well, I was determined. I thought, I've made it this far. It's been 9 years in undergrad and I'm going to make it. I'm going to become a CA no matter what happens. And um, I I signed up to Junisa, and I called one of my friends and I asked him, hey, where can I've signed up through Junisa and I need to make this the first time. Like, I can't have another situation where I don't make it again. And he said to me, you know what, are you signed up through Unisa? And I said, yes. And he said, you know what, you have to go to this place. He said to me, Endunamu. And I rushed over to the website and I saw, oh, Endunamu. And I'm like, okay, 23,000. And, you know, after 9 years of not managing to get through, and finally, I felt like it was the most difficult thing was going to my mother and asking her for this financial assistance again. And she had always been the most supportive person, and she um, didn't bat an eye when I told her how much the fees at Indonesia were. And she made sure that I was going to go through. And she put me through, and my first semester at Endunamu didn't go too well. I'm seeing patients still hasn't arrived yet, so I think I shall continue. My first semester at Endunamu, at UNISA, didn't go too well. I thought that I was going to there we go, patience. But yeah, I think let me continue the story. So I thought that I was going to just come through and with all my goals and motivations to pass on my first attempt, and I was just going to be a rock star. And then reality hit, and term one and term two, I just failed my test. But I felt like there was a little glimmer of hope because I passed one of my tests. So I thought, no, man, I'm going to turn this around. And the third and fourth semester, I remember going to Rendani with my timetable and everything. And I said, I am going to bother this man. I'm going to make him my best friend. And he's going to sit next to me while I draw my timetable in front of him. And he never once actually criticized my calendar. He just said, "How do you feel about it? Are you happy with it?" And I felt like, yeah, okay, I'm getting everything in. And after that, he just said, "Okay, cool." And I felt that like he kind of left that responsibility on me then to go and carry it out. And I felt that I had told someone what I planned to do. And that to me really helped me stay committed and motivated to working through everything that I was doing, was just having that sense of accountability. Um, but yeah, and ITC came. I actually don't know how I passed ITC. I had my attention split between this data science course and um, the last 2 weeks of studying. And somehow, somehow, like actually, I remember it perfectly well. There was one question in the Jan 2020, and they were talking about internet security. And I just finished my data science course. We were doing a cloud security basics on AWS. And I just started throwing in things from completely outside of accounting and just making examples out of it. And I still believe to this day that that is the reason I passed that paper. But, yeah, welcome back, patients.
Thank you so much, Philelani. I heard all you were saying. I'm not sure why my connection was just interrupted, but thank you so much. But I still do have a question though.
Mm-hmm.
Why the decision to grow horizontally as opposed to just continuing with articles and just doing everything else? Like, if somebody out there was thinking, is CA really for me? What would be your advice? Why did you decide to take a break, or is it a break? How? Please just explain to us how that decision came about.
I think a lot of people have always think that when I say I wanted to become a data scientist, that automatically it meant that I quit CA or quit wanting to be a CA or stopped wanting to be a CA.
Makes
Um,
sense. I mean, I
but
would think that.
no, not even, it's not even the case though. For me, data science is um, it's an additional tool in my belt, in that I feel like not only can I say I've got my ITC right now, and soon I want to say that not only am I a CA and people trust my opinion, but I also have skills that are relevant in the new age, and I felt that that was important. And I felt that my choices were furthermore or further justified when I started looking at the big firms and seeing what are their strategies with regard to how they plan to audit in the future. And without mentioning too many names, I was just excited by it. And I felt that this was the right choice. So I didn't feel it was a horizontal move. I just felt it was a temporary pause to learn some additional skills that I
Mhm.
felt would just enhance the CASA designation.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. Before I open the questions to the other candidates, just tell me how you think the current ITC candidates can just literally sail through. I mean, they've been hit by COVID, there's lockdown, there's so many things that that have amassed that were not part of the initial program. They've had all this to deal with. I mean, I assume ITC is challenging on its own, but then
Mhm.
there also there's other factors that now have been thrown at them, and I can only assume that one would feel discouraged at some point in time. What would you tell someone who is losing hope? I mean, we've had Psycho postpone the examinations to November, and we don't even know if there's so many uncertainties. So what would you tell the person that's sitting for ITC November 2020?
Mm. So ITC November 2020, and I've been asked this quite a few times. Um, um, I've had this discussion a few times where when I look at the way we are trained, um, your undergrad is the moment where they're just stuffing all of these tools into your belt, and you don't really know what to do with them just yet, but at some point you're going to have a purpose for them. And you get to your postgrad, and now they start expecting you to use these tools and to understand how to use these tools. And you get to level 2, and now you have to criticize other people's use of these tools, and are they doing things correctly and all of that. And CTA, I feel, is the point where they really drill your technical competence. And what I found sitting ITC personally was not really the challenge of the technicalities. I felt that if I had to do a calculation for WAC, I was comfortable. I just remembered step 1, I had to do this. Step 2, I had to do that. I remembered my routine. But what was most challenging was being thrown into a new case study and having to read through this thing and understand what is going on around you and be able to switch context when um, you're given a new question, you know. And when they ask for your insights, you have to think about all different angles of those that you could possibly come from. And I feel that the concept, the technical side of CA of ITC was not too much the challenge, but it was more being comfortable with new situations. And a lot of how I felt I developed that comfort was, um, well, I just found myself spending a lot of time on my papers. Like, if a paper was supposed to take me an hour to finish, I guarantee that it took me the whole day to do that paper, because I would read the first sentence, I would get bored, and I'd just start Googling, okay, what's going on in this scenario? And I would know about that industry. And soon I'm starting to send articles to Rendani talking to him about this industry and that industry. And by the end of the conversation, or this long WhatsApp conversation, it's the end of the day, I'm not even done, but I'm looking at this paper and I'm like, okay, I think I know how I want to approach this question. And that sort of interest for me, I think, is what built a lot of my ability to read a case study and try and just quickly switch into a new situation and understand a new situation. And I think that is a skill that needs that um, is a necessary ability, or an ability that would be helpful to develop when trying to pass.
Beautiful. Okay, so it sounds like distractions are a normal occurrence, but you just need to realign yourself and, yeah, just keep focused at the end of the day.
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, I'm going to open questions now to our lovely candidates, but I need to know,
Mm-hmm.
just in summary, if you were to get like maybe 3, 4 points, whatever, what what made you pass ITC first attempt? Because we have some of our candidates that are repeating, we have some of our candidates that are nervous and thinking of postponing. Like, what quick 3 things can you like think of that, okay guys, this I can definitely recommend? What would you say to them?
Um, wow, quick 3 things. In terms of my process, and I think what helped me, and I hope it might help someone else, is number 1, attempt as like make sure that you are comfortable with the examinable pronouncements, and make sure you see that there may be subtle differences between CTA and ITC. And while reading through those paragraphs that you don't understand, or those new paragraphs, a lot of the things may click during that time. Second thing would be to attempt as many questions as you can. I wouldn't say do all of them. I would say look at what is what you think. For me, what gave me nightmares, that if I knew that tomorrow they're going to ask me about groups, anything in groups, I don't care what it is, then that means I'm going to do every single paper I see that has groups in it until I'm comfortable with it. And that was me with tax and auditing. Just make sure that you face your demons during that time, because if you haven't done it by the time you get to the actual paper, then you've wasted a lot of time. Um, And I think the third thing, wow, dude, allow yourself to rest, hey? Um, the
Oh,
most important
that's
thing,
very profound. I like that. Yes.
I think the most important thing for me was that I tried that uh, 9 o'clock every day, this is my time, or I have my routine, and in certain times of the day, I have my time off. But whatever happens, if I've been working for 6 days straight, on the seventh day, I am resting. I don't care if it's a Monday or a Friday or a Wednesday, I am resting. I'm not doing anything and no one will hear from me. And that, I think, kept me sane and kept my energy levels up the whole time. So don't push yourself at all hours of the night without rest. Or, yeah, that's my third thing.
Thank you so much, Bulelani. That actually helped a lot. I hope our candidates were able to benefit from that. So now I am going to open up the floor for questions. So guys, whoever has a question, you are welcome to post it on Teams and Divuo will inform me, or you can post it on WhatsApp on the admin groups. I will be able to see that as well. So while we wait for any questions that may pop up, tell me how it is working under lockdown. Are you losing your mind, or are you an essential worker and you're leaving the house? What's going on there?
To be honest, I'm actually just missing my team mostly because we work in teams of five. um, and the sad thing is the face-to-face interaction. Like that is what I miss the most. Like being able to
That is
just
the
tell
worst
someone and
part.
say, you know, just to say, hey, I need your help with something. Like, how does this work? And they just tell you, and like, it's. I miss that interaction. But
Yeah, no,
otherwise, like
that's
no,
true.
yeah. But otherwise, like even at the office, like at work, we just sit in front of the computer all day. So right now, it's we just moved our offices to our home days. So it's fun. It's been fun.
Beautiful. And
Yeah.
okay, so we do not, I just hang on. I see Pardon wrote something. Okay, Shilongi sent a message. Has he also put articles on hold? Shilongi would like to know if your articles are on hold, or is it still something you want to pursue? What's your journey with that?
So I was very fortunate. And actually, this reminds me of one of the lecturers at Indunamu. My back in 2019, I was struggling to get an interview or to get a articles, and I kept on struggling in every single interview. I kept on making my interviews, but I just wasn't doing something right. And I went to my auditing lecturer, and he said to me, "You know what? I think the way you're answering questions is incorrect. So you know what? I'm going to give you this PDF of 100 of the most difficult interview questions and their answers, right?" And what I think I got from that PDF or that PDF was more a shift in mindset in how to answer my questions, but not just answering my questions, just how to approach work in general. And it made me more excited and everything. And I came to this new firm and I had to uh, shake hands with some friends that who had long since graduated and ask, and call in favors, and they had been
Okay.
working and they were now partners and everything. But I was fortunate enough to have those connections from when I was in UP to at least pull on those strings. And when I went in there and they interviewed me and they asked me about everything, well, never mind that, the fact that they gave me the opportunity, I was more excited about learning everything as much as fast as I could and just being a consultant.
Mhm.
And luckily this firm had a consulting division and already they were talking, like they were like already shining me with ideas of the consulting division. And besides that, I then they were very gracious with me, and or not gracious but very patient with me when I said to them, listen, I'm passing my TC, I've passed my CTA, and I got into this place and I really want to do this. And they're like, okay, well, since you've passed and everything, the only thing they could do was really roll over my contract. So I decided to just suspend my articles for a single year. Just so I'm starting actually in February next year, and then I'll finally be eligible to sit for APC in 2022. Yes.
Okay, so articles is still in the pipeline. Thank you so much. Shilongi, I hope you are happy with that answer. Let's see if we've got something else. Okay, also from Shilongi, since he is from UNISA, does he advise us to go back to UNISA tutorial letters with questions, or just purely stick to ITC pack from Indunamo?
Um, I th- not knowing too much about the current. I suppose this year's ITC is related to last year's pack. I felt that the current Endonamo pack was sufficient. The way I remember it was split up into the individual modules where you could do those 40-mark questions. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was also the test pack, or the integrated pack, if I remember, where there were
Yes,
about
integrated.
11 questions, yes. And I honestly, for the integrated pack, I just worked through those questions. And for the test pack, I identified particular standards and ifrases or whatever have you, that I struggled with, and I only worked through those questions. So, and anything else, I felt like if I needed practice in something that I was already comfortable with, it would come in the integrated questions, and that was it. But more than that, I think the technical side of the questions wasn't really my biggest challenge. I think the strategy and risk management, especially in management accounting, was quite a leap, especially coming from UNISA. And that Indunam did quite a good job of putting together a good pack of questions to kind of assist us in making that leap.
Mm. Thank
So
you so much for that.
I wouldn't go back to the I wouldn't go back to the UNISA tutorial letters too much. I think it's the time that you have is not, it doesn't warrant it. I think the questions that are there are sufficient.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. I see Jackie is typing. Shilongi, I hope you're answered. Let's just wait for Jackie to finish what she is typing. Nope, Shilongi has another message that has come through before Jackie.
Oh, she's just a
Would
faster
he?
typer.
It seems so. So yes, we've got two questions now. Let me start with Shilongi's question. Would he advise his children one day to go and try the CA journey? Ooh, and let's keep in mind that you struggled with your journey, like it was a bit rough, like those 9 years to qualify, and it had to go on. Now it's getting beautiful. Would you tell your kids, okay, go out there, let's see if you can do this?
Coming from the difficulty that I went through,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. But at the same
Yeah.
time, um, I think the training or the way of thinking that the CA journey and the ITC journey like has conferred on me, or that has taught me,
Mm-hmm.
is something that I think would be beneficial to anyone, and I would advise my children any day of the week to do this if they could learn what I have learned, or see or think, or just see the way the world I feel I see the way the world, or the way a CA has taught me to see the world. But yeah.
Beautiful answer. Thank you. Okay, so we have time for just a few more questions, guys. So if you want to post anything, kindly do so now. I can see I've got a question from Jackie and Pardon. So Jackie's question, what are you doing currently in terms of work? So I think she just wants a bit of elaboration in terms of this data science thing that you spoke about. What is it that you're doing now, after qualifying for your ITC?
All right. So right now, okay. So so in just before the exams, the final CTA exams, I decided that I was going to enter this. It was an application for this data science internship, and there were something like 10,000 applicants, and we had to write some test and write some coding challenges for 2 weeks. And just before exams, I'm telling Rindani, I'm like, hey, I'm busy doing this stuff. And he's like, how much time is it taking? And I'm like, quite a lot. And he's like, will you be okay? And I'm not sure. And he's like, okay, just do what you have to do.
Shame.
And he's like, just do what you have to do. And I did it. And then I passed everything. And like, they chose me for like
Wow.
another round of face-to-face interviews. And then December
Wait, so
comes
is
up.
this after the 10,000 candidate? You qualified out of those thousands of candidates?
So out of those 10,000, we were whittled down to about 3,000 for
Wow.
face-to-face interviews. And
Hmm.
we had the most interesting interview format I've ever seen. We had 1 minute to answer 5 questions from 5 different interviewers. And I do not remember any of the questions except for this one where I was stuck and they asked me, what is your best quality? And I sat there and I'm like, oh my God, I'm running out of time. I don't know. I can't think. Oh, and then at the final second, I said, I'm resilient.
Wow,
I feel like, I feel like,
resilience. That's a good
yeah,
one.
right? Exactly. And then, yeah, I made it through to the final 500, and we were split up into groups of about 150, like 200 in Joburg, 150 in Durban, 150 in Cape Town. Um, and yeah, we're basically of all of us, about 470 of us got sponsored, and right now BCX is paying for the entire program plus a little bit of a living wage too, or stipend, or what do you call it? Yeah, stipend actually. Just to,
Stipend.
yeah,
Nice. You're living pretty. So
yeah.
so that's what you're
I'm,
doing now for work.
I'm getting paid to learn, so that's my work. I love it.
That I feel like that is everybody's dream, like just getting paid to learn. I mean, wow. Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so Briani has also asked a question. This could be our last one. Let's take Pardon's question now. I belong to the team last attempt. Any
Hmm.
specific advice? You know, the nervousness, the uncertainty, the fear, everything in one. So this is his last shot, and he's asking, what would your words be to Pardon? Because he needs to pull through.
Um, you know, I can't say that with ITC or with CTA I ever joined team last attempt, but I remember in UKZN, um, the admin lady was quite sick of seeing me every year, and the one year my my application was declined because I had failed one too many times. And I never told my mother about this, but I went to the lady and I pleaded my case and I spoke to the dean and everything. And she said to me, okay, fine, what are you going to do different this time? I said, to be honest, I do not know, but I am determined to pass this thing. And if it means I have to adjust my process, if it means I have to ask everyone in the room different questions, like sit at the front of the class every day, I will do it to pass this thing. And for me, that was one of the first times I ever thought that my process was one of the biggest things to adjusting my outcome, because the whole time I had measured myself by, how can I put it? I always felt that I measured my worth by my results, and every time I failed, I felt like worth less and less, and that the outcome just looked more and more bleak. But I think the most freeing and the most difficult, in fact, thing to do is to just let go of the results and just allow yourself to go through the process of just learning. Just empty your cup and just listen to what people have to say. And if you don't understand, ask, because the only, and okay, people always say there's no such thing as a dumb question, but I feel that the only dumb question is the one that you still have, or the one that you haven't asked when it's just you in that paper. Make sure that all of your questions are asked by the time you are answered by the time you get there. That is my best advice for final attempts. And I think patience has been cut off as well. And my phone is about to run out of battery. I might get cut off Zoom. or sorry, of not Zoom, of Teams. But yeah, okay, so I think that may have been the last question in any case. She did say, I think there was one more, but I will try and answer it. Patience will send it to me on WhatsApp, and I'll try and answer it for you, and hopefully she can respond to, or you will get that response. So yeah, thank you, and my name is Bulani once again, and thank you for hearing me. Did you Oh, here's a question. Did you finish all the questions when writing ITC? Did you practice doing integrated questions or just questions specifically related to one subject? So by the time I had come out of, because I had finished CTA in 2019 and was then starting to study for ITC in December that same year or last year, I didn't see any benefit in going back to individual subjects because I felt that the past 2 years had just been all about individual subjects. So when I did go back to an individual subject, it was because there was a specific topic, like say IFRS 9, for example, that I may have been struggling with. Then I would go back to a specific subject. But otherwise, I felt that there was more benefit in doing some 100-mark questions and then like 100-mark individual exam questions and then jumping off into the integrated questions. So yeah, I felt that the integrated questions helped me expose myself a bit more to an integrated thinking, let's say, much sooner. And that CTA was enough. Okay, and I think that was the last question. I don't know if there's another one from Bilo, but thank you very much. And yeah, patience is back. You are muted.
Yes, I hope you can hear me now. Apologies for that. This network is getting the better of me. But
Okay, bye guys.